When the hearthfire turns to blue, what to do, run and hide, run outside.
Chandrian. Hello everyone, I'm Zach and you're watching Middle Fantasy, and today we're going to be talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and to do that I'm actually in a camp. Today we're going to be talking about the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about what is the main theme of the story. Now, the unique thing about the Kingkiller Chronicles is that when it comes to the theme, you ask any person that's read it, and they'll say a multitude of things. They'll say, oh, it's a love story, it's a tragedy, it's a story about a young boy going to wizard school, but not really. Though, when it comes to me, I've always found that the story that Patrick Rothfuss is telling, it's a story about telling stories. Now, for people that haven't read the Kingkiller Chronicles, we follow Quoth, as he's pretty much telling his own story. He's hiding out as an innkeeper named Coat, and we try to figure out, why is he in this inn? Why is this legendary figure who's both a boy wizard, but also a person that is a king killer? Why is he here? And I feel like when it comes down to it, you boil the story, it's a story about telling stories, because when you boil down the story, we find out what really makes a myth, what really makes a legend. As we see through Quoth's eyes as he tells the story, you see the things that make him mythical are just the most mundane things, like he makes like a flashbang out of things that he found, just basic elements. But yet, when people retell his story, they talk about how he shot lightning through his fingertips, and he called down the name of thunder and lightning, and it's very, very frightening. I guess Galileo, they might call him. Galileo. I like that. Or maybe Figaro. But that's the thing when it comes to the Kingkiller Chronicles that Patrick Rothfuss does really well, is that it is a story that has deeper meaning no matter where you read it. Like, you can find different interpretations within every person. And I think the best example of this is every time you read the books, like for me, I've read it 6 or 7 times, there are things that you can only experience through rereading the book, such as maybe some words mean something different, or maybe something you thought was a plot twist might not be in the case. And when it comes down to it being a story about storytelling, there's like stories within stories, but as you explore the world and you explore the themes of storytelling, we find new meanings to those myths, to religion, to songs, things that even become down to the Chandrian. Should we tell those stories? Should we tell those songs? Should we speak those words? And when you boil it down, that's what Patrick Rothfuss does really well. He pretty much says, what is a myth? What is a legend? Because every good legend or every good truth has a good story behind it that might be mundane or might be extraordinary. And there's plenty of examples such as the Dracus. Like, Quoth slays this Dracus, burns down the town of Trebon, but did he really? And that's something like, he did it by a happy accident, but the singers and the songwriters will say that he is a monster. He's the one that burned down the town pretty much just by himself with his own hands. He called down fire. But yet, when you get to the real story, it's even more ludicrous, as he's pretty much drugged up a Dracus that pretty much terrorizes this town to the point of where Quoth does have to save the town, but in the process, Trebon is destroyed. And as we see with other things such as the Chandrian, well, maybe shouldn't be saying their names off in the woods. I'm afraid something might happen. Maybe a fellow with white hair and black eyes like a goat might show up. But as we see with them, there's power in stories. There are stories that maybe people shouldn't be telling. Maybe there should be songs that people shouldn't sing. And that is something that, when you think about it, there are different interpretations. Like, one of my favorite parts of the whole book, For the Name of the Wind, when Quoth is singing the Lady Lackless rhyme with his mother, and she pretty much points out that it's a bunch of like innuendos, and it's a very sexual song, and that's not really the right thing to do. And then Quoth actually meets Lady Lackless, and it turns out that the rhyme that he's been singing might be more nefarious or might hold some more truth to both Quoth's lineage, but also at the same time the secrets and the meaning of magic as itself within naming and all the mysteries of Temerant. And there are a lot more nefarious things throughout the series when it comes to storytelling. A good example of this is the university, a place that has thousands upon thousands of books, but yet one simple mistake that Quoth does almost destroys an entire library with a single spark, and pretty much almost is disaster for an entire civilization. And those are the things that I find so fascinating that Patrick Rothfuss does with the story, is you see through the eyes of Quoth, but also at the same time, what really I love about the series as well is if you listen to it as an audiobook, it actually works a little better depending on who you get for it. There's two versions. There's this American guy and then there's this British guy. It's pick your poison, which one you want. But you have that oral tradition of sitting by a fireplace and wondering what is right and what is wrong, and can we figure out the mysteries of the universe? Because we see that throughout the story, speaking truths and singing songs upon a campfire with the Edamaru as we try to figure out the inner workings of the world. And in the end of the day, that's my main theme when it comes to the Kingkiller Chronicles. It's a story about telling stories, because stories are what live on for the most part. Like, you can make monuments, you can make epic roads. Yes, they'll last, but they'll eventually wither. Whereas when it comes to a good song or a good story, they can last forever, especially when it comes to figuring out what is right with that story. What is the truth? Because after 1,000 generations, is it the same story? Is there still the same truth to it? Those are the questions that we all have to answer. But in the end of the day, we're just hooked to good stories because we like being entertained. And entertainment is one of those things that's almost cheap or free at times. Anyone can tell a story. Anyone can sing a song. They might be bad at it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If it's a good story or a good song, people will be hooked one way or another. And even the worst songs are the most memorable when people retell the story of how that person sung that song wrong. And that's why I love the Kingkiller Chronicles. We'll have to see when Doors of Stone comes out to continue the story with Quoth, and seeing where his story ends and new stories begin. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe down below. That would be really awesome of you. I love making these videos. I love being able to tell my own stories, my own truths, and sing these songs in many ways, because at the end of the day, we're just people just trying to have a fun time and pass the world as it is right now. Well, everyone, like always, may your food and drink ever be tasteful. May your books be filled with fantasy and adventure, because at the end of the day, a lot of books and a lot of tales and a lot of songs do tell a couple truths. So everyone, have a good night.